How on earth does an age of reason, a time of brilliant ideas about liberty and human rights, end up fueling one of the most violent and terrifying revolutions in all of history? It's a huge paradox, right? That's what we're going to get into today. How the Enlightenment's brightest ideals also cast a very, very dark shadow. And we're kicking things off with this bombshell from Jean-Jacques Rousseau because it just gets right to the point. This isn't just a critique of society, it's an accusation. He's saying that the very idea of private property, the bedrock of our world, isn't natural. It's an act of theft. Now, when you start thinking like that, you're not just looking for a little reform. You're looking to burn the whole system down and start over.
And that really brings us to the core question here, doesn't it? Can a philosophy that's all about freedom ever justify mass executions? Can the noble search for equality somehow rationalize a reign of terror? This is the conflict we're going to unpack, the tension between these beautiful, inspiring ideas and what happens when they smash into the messy, brutal real world.
Now, to really get a handle on the fire that ripped through France, we actually have to start somewhere else. We've got to look across the English Channel to where the first sparks were lit. Because in England, these world-changing ideas grew up in a very different and much, much calmer environment.
So you have to understand what these new ideas were up against. And that was absolutism. We're talking about kings like Louis XIV of France, the Sun King, who famously said, "I am the state." The belief was that their power came straight from God, so there was no arguing with them. There was no room for things like individual rights or political debate. This was the old world order that the Enlightenment was determined to tear down.
So what was the weapon they chose to fight this system? It was reason. Inspired by thinkers like Descartes and scientists like Isaac Newton, philosophers started making a powerful argument. We have our own guiding light built right into our minds. We don't need a king or a church to tell us what's right and wrong. We can figure it out for ourselves using logic. I mean, this was a complete game changer for how people saw the world.
And the main architect of this English way of thinking was John Locke. His big idea was that our minds are shaped by our experiences. And here's the kicker. If everyone has different experiences, then no single person, no king, no priest, can claim to have the one and only ultimate truth. So, Locke argued, the only way for a society with different views to actually work is through tolerance. It wasn't just a nice idea, it was a political necessity.
And this, right here, is probably Locke's most powerful idea: separating church and state. He said, look, the government, the civil sphere, that's public. That's about laws we all agree on using reason for the public good. But religion? That's private. That's a personal choice about your own soul. This was revolutionary. It was designed to stop one group's religious beliefs from controlling everyone else's political life.
And the crazy thing is, it actually worked in England. In what they call the Glorious Revolution, the country moved from an absolute monarchy to one where the king had to share power. And get this, it happened mostly through political deals and compromise, not with guillotines and massacres. It was a revolution without blood, a civilized revolution, and it set this powerful example that a lot of people hoped France could just copy.
Okay, so you have these calm, rational ideas about tolerance and slow change brewing in England, but what happens when you take that spark and drop it across the channel into France? Well, it didn't land in a garden ready for planting. It landed in a tinderbox, just waiting for a match.
I mean, just look at this contrast. It tells you everything you need to know. While England was gradually becoming more liberal, France was stuck. It had a king, Louis XVI, who was an absolute ruler but also completely inept. It had a corrupt royal court that lived in luxury while laughing at the law. And underneath it all, you had millions and millions of people living in absolute misery, starving.
So when the idea of liberty arrived in this environment, it wasn't some interesting topic for a dinner party debate. It wasn't a suggestion for a few reforms. No, it was a match being tossed into a room filled with gunpowder. The same idea was going to mean something totally different here.
And the guy who carried that match, maybe without realizing just how flammable everything was Voltaire. After a stint in the Bastille prison, he was exiled to England and was just blown away by the freedom he saw there. So he went back to France and became this incredible champion for these ideas, writing against tyranny. But here's the great irony. Voltaire himself hated violence. He believed in reason and debate and really hoped France could fix itself peacefully, just like England had.
But yeah, peaceful reform? That was never really in the cards for France. Because a different philosopher's ideas were starting to take hold.
Ideas that were way more radical, way more emotional, and in the end, way more dangerous than anything from Locke or Voltaire. This is where the story takes a sharp and violent turn, and it's all thanks to Jean-Jacques Rousseau.
Okay, so let's break down Rousseau's thinking, because this is where everything gets dialed up to 11. First, he flips everything on its head. He says humans aren't born flawed, they're born good, like noble savages. It's society, with its private property and its inequality, that corrupts us. Second, he pushes back against pure logic, saying our feelings, our gut instincts, are just as important as reason. And third, his most explosive idea, the general will.
Now this last one, the general will, this is the really critical and frankly terrifying one. It's not just what everybody wants as individuals. No, it's the single, unified will of the people as a whole, for the common good. And for Rousseau, this will was absolute. It could never be wrong. It was more important than any individual's rights. And if you disagreed with the general will, well then you are an enemy of the people. And you could be forced to be free, which is a chilling phrase that means you could be forced to go along with it for your own good. You can see how this becomes a perfect excuse for tyranny, all in the name of the people.
Now just imagine for a second you're a starving peasant in 18th century France. You see the nobles having lavish feasts while your family has nothing. And then you hear this: "The fruits of the earth belong to us all, and the earth itself to nobody." That's not a polite suggestion for tax reform. That is a call to arms. That's the language of total revolution.
And there you have it. You've got the calm, rational kindling from Locke and Voltaire, and now it's just been drenched in the gasoline of Rousseau's radicalism. It was only a matter of time before someone lit the match. We've arrived at the revolution itself, and its bloody, complicated, and world-changing legacy.
And that moment came on July 14, 1789. A furious mob storms the Bastille prison in Paris, the very symbol of the king's tyranny. This is it. This is the point of no return. All the books, all the pamphlets, all the debates, they're no longer just ideas. They've exploded from the page and into the streets as a physical, violent, and unstoppable force.
But just look at how fast the dream turns into a nightmare. It all starts in 1789 with the beautiful Declaration of the Rights of Man, promising liberty and equality for all. Just 4 years later, you get the Reign of Terror, where the revolution starts eating its own children, executing thousands of so-called enemies of the people in the name of that general will. And by 1799, it's all over. Napoleon Bonaparte takes over, and the long, bloody fight for liberty ends with another dictator.
This chart really just says it all, doesn't it? The ideals they started with, liberty, equality, were sky high. But the final result was a horrifying level of violence that ended up destroying the very freedom they were fighting for. It's just a tragic picture of the gap between a beautiful theory and a brutal reality.
So where does that leave us? What's the takeaway from all this? Well, it's completely two-sided. On one hand, the French Revolution gave us the language of modern democracy, of human rights, of government by the people, ideas that shape our entire world. But on the other hand, it's a terrifying warning about what can happen when people become so sure their ideas are right that they're willing to kill anyone who disagrees. And yet, you can't deny its lasting power. Its most famous slogan, liberty, equality, fraternity, became the rallying cry for freedom movements all over the world. For all its horrors, the revolution burned these hopes deep into our collective DNA, and they still inspire people to this day.
Which leaves us with this final question, and it's a big one. Was the French Revolution the painful, bloody birth of modern freedom, or is it a timeless warning that the road to hell is often paved with the very best intentions? The truth is, it's probably always going to be both.